Hello and welcome to this follow-up video to another video which I've done about a couple of months ago, where I talked about this EONON E46A12 head unit that I fitted to my obviously E46 BMW. So in that previous video I talked about just how the head unit looks, outside of box, physically what the characteristics were, and sort of how it connects to your factory harness. So in this, I want to talk about my experience. Obviously, I've used this for about 2 months now, and just wanted to share what my thoughts were on the head unit, some of the functionality, things I like, maybe things that aren't so great or perhaps a little bit odd in terms of how they function. So let's get going. I do like the fact that obviously it fits into the factory kind of area where the original head unit is. You don't need any additional fascia kits or anything. This is specific to the E46 model. So in terms of like fit and finish, if I just turn on the lights here, it's I think it's really good. The only trouble was getting this trim panel back in. This is a little bit tricky, so you have to loosen the screws around these two areas here and actually pull the head unit away, and then you can sort of tilt this trim panel behind the gap here, and then you've got enough of a gap left here to use a thin screwdriver to tighten these screws back up and basically leave the head unit in place. I do like, it kind of looks almost factory. Obviously they didn't have that technology back in when this car was made, but I do like it looks very kind of stealthy in my opinion. Another favorite things of mine is really just the sound of it. The previous head unit I've had in this car, which was fitted by the previous owner, was a Sony head unit, although I think it was specific to an Apple devices rather than Android ones. So I couldn't I could listen to Bluetooth music through the phone, but I couldn't use maps or anything else, and it sounded okay, but nothing like exceptional or very special. And I think the reason this head unit here sounds so good is down to the equalizer, because this has got a 32 track equalizer. So these are all the sort of lows to mids and mids to high. So I think this is really what makes it a big difference, because in my car it still has factory speakers, and you can really just dial in the specific frequencies that your speakers can actually handle, and I think that makes a big difference. So while this still is all like factory power, I've managed to get the head unit sounded really how I quite like. I'm sure it'll sound better with, upgraded speakers and perhaps like a small amp, but even with this as it stands, I think it sounds great. So that's definitely a good thing. Now, in terms of other functionalities, there's different themes, so you can change how the menus and how the home screen looks. So as you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 themes you can choose from. One thing to consider is some of the slightly more expensive models of this type of head unit. For example, they'll have more RAM or more memory, but do bear in mind that some of them actually have fewer options in terms of themes. And also, if we go back a step and talk about the equalizer, I've noticed that some of the slightly more expensive models actually have equalizers with fewer tracks, which is a bit of an odd choice. I'm not really sure why the manufacturer decided to do that, but here we are. So it's worth just comparing the different units before you make a choice. But this is a 2 GB version, and I found that it runs quickly enough for my needs. I'm not going to be streaming, Netflix on here, even though actually it does come preloaded with it, and Spotify. I just use the Google, so the Android Auto app, and I'm pretty happy with it. Again, you've got maps, which is great. You know, you've got Google Maps. There's a Google store, so you can select different aftermarket, or shall I say, apps. Here you go. You can actually link it with your own account, etc. You can also download maps you can use offline. There are maps that will allow you to do that, so it doesn't rely on an internet connection, so that's great. In fact, it's kind of easy to use if you're used to an Android device or an Android system. What else? So I think I had the Android Auto open somewhere. Here it is. So once you connect your device through Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, they kind of connect simultaneously. It kind of does a screen mirroring of your own handset. You can see there's some options for the apps from your phone. Not everything's going to be shown, but a lot of the apps will. And I have this VLC player downloaded onto my phone, and therefore that's why it reflects on the screen here, and then you can obviously play your music. But yeah, there's lots of functionalities I really like. For example, with the factory harness that comes with this head unit, I've actually been able to use all the steering wheel controls. So that's great, because with some of the other aftermarket stereos, you have to buy like the correct harness to enable these to function correctly. So I'm glad that actually the harness that EONON supply allows, you know, complete integration to the you know, to these buttons. Another thing that's quite useful, it kind of think it works with the OBD or with the CAN bus system. So for example, you can have an option on the screen to tell you if any of the doors are open. You can switch them from right-hand drive to left-hand drive, so that's quite useful for, you know, different regions. I'm in the UK, obviously this is a right-hand drive car, and although I've disabled that function, basically it was I thought it was a bit odd, because I was opening the driver's side door but the passenger side door was showing on the screen. So I then realized you have to actually swap the doors, because by default it thinks it's a left-hand drive car. Things I don't like, not much, but there's certain quirks. I think the menus for the settings are maybe not laid out as great, or not maybe user friendly. Sometimes you have to really dig around to find things that you want to find. Another odd thing is that when you put the car in reverse, it shows you a screen. Basically the screen goes black and it comes up with like a little car symbol, and what I think it should do is it should tell you the distances, but for some reason it doesn't actually do that. I'm not sure why, because it clearly detects the fact that I'm putting it into reverse. But my bleeper, like the factory bleeping noise, is still functioning from the reverse sensors, but for some reason it doesn't actually tell you like the distances on the screen, you know, to tell you how far away you are from an object. So that's a little bit odd. And also, if you're listening to music via Bluetooth or Android Auto, as soon as you put the car into reverse, it basically cuts the music out. So that's a little bit annoying as well. I'm not sure why it does that. For example, if you just listen to radio and you put the car into reverse, it simply just makes the radio less loud, so you can like hear what's going on. But when you're listening to like Bluetooth music via, you know, an Android link, as soon as you put the car into reverse, it just cuts the music out completely. So that's, you know, a little bit annoying, but it's one of those things. But yeah, that's probably the only two things that I would find to be, you know, a little bit odd, or not as good as maybe it should have been. But for the rest of it, I'm really happy. It's reasonably quick. There's plenty of options to like customize, you know, the side kind of menus. You know, you can customize what buttons are showing or what icons are showing here. You know, you can juggle things around. You can connect a USB stick, and you can, you know, use different wallpapers. Just download things from a USB stick, use files from there. Like I said, there's themes. Talk is a Bluetooth enabled OBD scanner. Again, you can buy that separately or buy that from EONON themselves. That's quite handy. Plenty of apps come pre-loaded already. You can obviously use Play Store to download things that you want. So yeah, overall I'm really happy. Sounds great. Fitted pretty easily. And yeah, overall I'm pretty buzzing to be using it. So thanks for viewing, and hopefully that will help you if you're looking to decide on getting one of these. Thanks. Bye.